Why were you trying to contact me?
You oppose the heretics, those that took the old machines as gods.
All kinds of organics fought Sovereign and his Geth allies. Why am I so interesting?
You were the most successful. You killed their god. You succeeded where others did not. Your code is superior.
Welcome to Superior Code. Since some of these books are based off of video games, that's why I've decided to upload it on here. So starting with number 10, which I'm kind of cheating on, because it's the Murderbot Diaries, and there's like 7 books, and since I listened to the audiobook back to back to back to back, I can't really remember what happens in like book 2 versus book 3, or book 5 versus book 6, so I liked all of it. Like, there was not like a weak moment, so I'm putting it all as my number 10 spot. I guess if I had to choose, maybe the first book to the 7th one. But yeah, this is the only one where I'm kind of cheating on. And it's my first audio drama, which is why it really stuck out and why it really felt like one huge book. Because an audio drama is different from like a normal audio book. Like in audio drama, there's like music in the background, sound effects, like people walking. Like if there's action, you could hear that in the background, and grunts and struggles. And each character has their own voice actor. So it's going to be really hard for a movie or a show to top the experience I had with this audio drama, because I can picture everything that was happening, and if it doesn't look exactly like how I pictured, and if the characters sound totally different, it's just going to feel like a totally different story. But maybe that's not a bad thing. Anyways, the Murderbot Diaries is about the main character is a robot or an android, synthetic, whatever. That is a security bot, but they love to just watch movies, shows, and just keep to themselves. They're very antisocial and awkward. Like, they can't even look at humans in their face without their helmet on. If they don't have their helmet on and the other characters can see their facial expressions, they'll just like turn into a corner, just face a corner and start talking to them. Or because they're a robot, they can like zap into a feed, to a camera feed, and just look at it from that camera angle, so they're not actually looking at someone face to face. They're looking at them through a camera angle, but the human doesn't know that. They think they're actually just staring at them. So it's very funny and has cute moments like that, but it is a serious drama where there's stakes. But yeah, I think the best way to enjoy this series is for sure the audio drama. I did recommend this to a friend, but she said that she didn't like the audio drama because like the sound effects and stuff like that felt too weird to her. So I don't know, I guess it's not for everyone. I learned about this series from a booktuber, or someone on Book Talk. And I'll link their profile because I can't remember their name right now. But I really like them because they're not very like whimsical and like a fairy person who never gets angry. Like, I don't know. I like that she's more real. But she just read the book. So she didn't even mention the audio or anything, and I still really recommend listening to the audio drama, giving that a shot, because it's one of the best ways to enjoy this series, like a sci-fi series, where I think it's one of the most difficult to explain its world around it, and most sci-fi stories I like are based on video games, so if it wasn't for me have played the video game first, I would have a really hard time imagining what the book is describing, and it adding sound effects really helped immerse me into its story to help me picture it, you know? So I do want to get the physical copies because I love this series so much. Because the covers are so beautiful and cool looking. Like, and I've been into annotating my books now, to where I leave notes, I'll highlight anything I like that stands out, write notes in it. I know there's like notebook paper, or sticky notes that's clear, but you need a certain type of pen so it doesn't smear. So I want to get those someday, to where it's like, I don't know if certain books I'll keep, but for now, I'm just writing and highlighting into books that I know I'm going to keep forever. I'm never going to give them away. So, it's been really fun to like also listen to an audiobook and then go along with the physical to kind of go through it again. I'll talk about that later, but that is like my favorite way or excuse to reread a book now, because before I've never reread one. Like I would just read it once and then I just remember it. It was very good at remembering. Also because I'm not a big reader, so that's probably as a big reason why I don't need to reread, is because every book I've read, I just remember it. But now that I'm starting to read a lot more, it's been really fun to like discover it as an audiobook or even as like an ebook, and then loving it so much that I get the physical copy just to go over it again and see what I want to highlight and leave notes in. And in the Murderbot Diaries, I want to say really quick that I really love how the robot characters were written. Like, that's very important to me in like a sci-fi that has them. They have emotion, but it doesn't make them feel too human. So usually I won't be a fan if they have emotion at all, but this one gets a pass because of the humor that's in it, and the robot characters feel more like EDI from Mass Effect, and less like 9S from Nier Automata, or like any of the robot characters in Westworld. Like Nier Automata and Westworld, I am just not a fan of those androids. Like, it just seems like a really lazy way to write your robots, where it's like, they're just like humans until you damage them and you see that they're not human. Like, I'm not a fan of that. I like when robots act like their own kind. So, and that's what this series does in a very good way. And the whole series and most of these other books could be found for free on the library app Hoopla. And you could also try Libby, but I haven't tried that one yet, but I know they have different selections. Number 9 is Cyberpunk 2077, No Coincidence. And this book I did pre-order and just got the physical copy as soon as it was ready. It's about strangers who are hired to do a heist together, and that's all I'll say. So, I don't think you need to I don't think you need to play the game or watch the anime to understand this book. From what I see it in the reviews, there are some people that just read it just because they like sci-fi. But, like I said before about like being able to be immersed immediately and know exactly what the book is describing, I think it really helps if you at least watch the anime if you're not a gamer, or play the game. It's really easy and really fun to read a description and know exactly what it looks like, exactly how it is and how it feels and what tools they're using in that world, and understand how the characters are and like the culture and everything. And I think playing the game or just watching the anime will prepare you for the type of tone and ending these stories usually take, because the game, the book, and the anime all take place in the same, or set in the same world, the same area, but it's a different set of characters and different years. So you could experience each of these stories in out of order. It doesn't matter. So but just like I said, I think keeping this book second, if not third, really helps with the experience of reading it if you already know that world. And I will say, like, I haven't listened to the audiobook yet, but I will later. But the audiobook is read by the female V's voice actor. I can't wait. I'm so excited to get back into it and like highlight different stuff. And I'll just say I really loved the hacker character. Their character was very interesting in their story and their path, and I just didn't see their path coming. Like, it was so awesome. That's all I'll say. I really, really liked their outcome. Number 8 is Dragon Age: The Stolen Throne, and it's about Merrick and Logan and how they became friends, and how Alistair's dad got his throne back. And I think it's in book 2 where you find out how Alistair was born. But in this book, the first one, I still really enjoyed it. And you don't need to play the game to enjoy it, because my mom liked it without even knowing the game. You could really see where Alistair's personality came from. Merrick is so charming, funny, and such a nice person. He has such a kind heart. And he's a bit smarter than Alistair. Like, Alistair's a bit more of a goofball. And dumb, let's just say it. He's a bit more dumb, but we love him. And yeah, his dad is just a very easy character to like. And then it was very interesting reading Logan's character in this book, like seeing a different side to him. Like, he's a bitch in the game. So it was very entertaining to see him start to deeply care for someone and became best friends with Merrick. I really liked their relationship. So it amplifies Dragon Age Origins, because just knowing how good of a man he could have been, and then based on your choices, you could try to restore that good man if you let him live. But in order to do that, you have to be on Alistair's bad side. But it's just gives replay ability to those games to see recover this other side of Logan. Number 7 is The Testaments, The Handmaid's Tale 2 of the novels. I like the first one, but it's pretty much the same as the series, the first season of the series. But this book is totally different. It's completely, like, doesn't follow the same main character at all. And I really enjoyed it. It's about America breaking apart and being in a civil war because there are some bigots that want to go back to, like, the Stone Ages where women didn't have rights, basically. But it's in this kind of apocalyptic world where the birth rates are going down and food sources are, like, depleting, I think. So their solution is like a hard reset and going back to, like, stop polluting the earth and stop giving women rights, and they should just be baby making machines, basically. So it goes back down to where even their speech goes back to olden times, you know. So, and where women can't read, they have to look at pictures and symbols. But so that's what this world is, both the books and the series. And it was in modern times where there's, like, you know, cell phones, internet, all of that exists. But now we're taken to this section of these people that are trapped in this new country within America that used to be America. And we're learning about their lives. And then the book goes back and forth between 3 characters. And one of the characters didn't grow up there in Gilead. They grew up in Canada. So we get to see how the world sees this new brutal country. So it's gonna be really weird to say this for a drama book, but the book was really fast paced. And I don't mean that like there's action at all. It's just it moves very like it makes the show feel like it's slow burn. So I really enjoyed this book a lot. It was just hard to put down. I loved having two certain characters meet and have somewhat of a language barrier because, you know, one person's speaking modern and the other one's speaking like this old language because they grew up there. And I loved getting a different version of Aunt Lydia. So in the show, she's like the villain. And in the book, she's also the villain, but she's planning a long con. Like, she remembers her former life and she wants revenge. She wants to get justice for all of the women and people that were just tortured by these evil men. So it's a gray area for her because she's doing a long con, but at the same time, she has to get her hands dirty and have heartless moments in order to stay in her powerful position to help the resistance, you know? So, but in the show, she's completely for it. Like, Aunt Lydia is, like, a big supporter of for the new country. So, she's all for it. And then, either way, it was still fun because I still had Aunt Lydia from the show pictured in my head, and I could still see her perfectly in this role in the book. I could see her doing this, especially in the newest season of the show. Something where a little switch in Aunt Lydia's character changes. I could see her becoming a character from this book. So it was just really, really fun reading that. I just wished the two characters had more time to banter because it was really funny that one of them didn't understand slang and would say that, and like the other one was just like, oh, my arm is looking like a puffball, and don't you say you don't know what a puffball is. And the other one's like, it's not my fault, I don't understand your weird language, or your weird words. It was just very rare to get funny moments in a series like this, even in the show, it's very rare. So the fact that this book found ways to add it in, I was so grateful for. So I really love that this book was created, and people in the reviews are like, not really liking it because like, oh, she only wrote this because the show is big. And yeah, no shit. No shit. So I'm glad she wrote this. We got to see more of how this world developed, and we got to see more of how it worked. Way more than what the show showed, because I think in the show it's only like 3 to 4 years after everything happened, and in this it's like more than 10 years. So we really get to see like what happens to a kid's or any person's mentality being born into this and not really remembering life before, you know? Number 6 is Quantum Break: Zero State, and it's about 3 friends. 2 of them are brothers, but one of them's a friend, and they grew up together, they're very close, and 2 of them become scientists, and they just discover how to time travel. So, and then it's like the dangers of that. So what I like about this series is what's different from other time travel stuff is they can't go back into the past before the time machine was created. So I think it was 1999. So they couldn't go back more like before 1999. That is the only time that they can go. And then the future, they can go all the way up to the future. So that's what I like about it. And I like that there's a debate so about like if you can change what happens if you go back into the past, or if you could change the outcome of the future. There's that whole debate. And for the most part the answer is no, especially in the game. But in the book it kind of seems like there's some hope that maybe we can. We need to really find out how. But for the most part it's no. They've been trying and trying and they can't. And when I say they've been trying, I just mean like other characters would say to like the main character, I've tried and I can't, and they're kind of having to take their word for it. So even though they're tempted to just try it, and then the little, like, let's say the 1 or 2 times they do try, it doesn't work out. So that gets them to be like, okay, I guess I should stop trying. Like, other people who are more experienced than me have tried. So it's more of like, well, maybe you're different. Maybe someone else who's different can try and change what happened. You know, there's a few different characters that are way more powerful than other characters for whatever reason. And that's, like, it gives me hope for a second book. And it says in the beginning of the book, too, that this book is played as an alternate timeline to the game. So it's like, you don't need to play the game because this book and the game feels like 2 different timelines of how everything could have happened. So they all have the same childhood, but the way things happen is different, and it's really, really fun. It's so fun. I really recommend checking out both. Like, you have to check out both. If you loved this book, you will love the fucking game. And if you love the game, you will love this book. I will say, like, when the book was explaining the time bubbles, and if you play the game, you already know what I mean. But in the book, I could see how time bubbles would be hard to imagine. So that's like one more point for I think you should play the game first, so when you read the book you know exactly what it's describing. And the effects of like how when time is stopping and it kind of rewinds and then fast forward, rewind, fast forward into little bubbles, it's really cool. That cool effect, and like it even affects the sound to where some of the sounds can make it feel like a horror story. Or at least in the game, it makes it feel like a horror game. And it mentions that too in the book, how like the distortion in the sound of someone slowing down like gives chills, you know? So it's just such a fun story, and it's time travel with the twist. Well, 2 twists where it's like the future is coming to an end. Because they created the time machine, it's fucked up the future to where it's just gonna completely stop and the world's gonna come to a big giant pause and not gonna continue on and exist anymore. So they kind of have to. There's one group where it's like, we need to have a little pocket. You know how there's like time bubbles? Well, when you have the big bubble, we need a big fucking bubble to where we can have a certain amount of people, scientists, working on a solution. And then there's another group of people that's like, we need to go back in time and just try to stop the time machine from existing, or like we need to be able to fix a different type of machine to make this okay. We need to fix this, what we've done, what we've created. So, but they can only choose to do one thing because this big power source that they're after is the solution to either have that big bubble to maybe come up with a solution with the brains of other scientists, or have that power source and use it to stop their mistake. So it's I understand both sides, and I will say, like, what's frustrating with reading, like, Reddit and, like, reviews is people who just refuse to see where the antagonist is coming from. I want to say villain, but I guess to our main character, they are the villain. So I find it really close-minded when we're talking fictional here. I find it really close-minded when readers, or anything, even games, when people refuse to see the villain's point of view just to understand them. You know, like, you don't have to agree with them, but at least try to see what they're coming from. And sometimes you'll surprise yourself and see that, oh, you get it. You understand why they don't want to risk fixing something that can't be fixed. What if we waste our time and we use that power source to try and fix it, and then it doesn't? It's like, oh, we should have went with the scientist living on to try and fix it. Like, we just wasted that opportunity. So I get both sides, and I understand why they have to butt heads and be enemies, you know? So it's very complicated, and I hate how some fans make it seem like it's not complicated. So that's the only frustrating part about fandoms, is when everyone loves to simplify shit. And I love that this book is complicated. I like complicated relationships. I just hate when people simplify it. And I'm just gonna have another example and a little mini rant about Mass Effect again, because I was watching someone play it through the ending, and again, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, I don't like Control ending, because that would be me admitting that the Elusive Man was right all along. Nah, I can't. I'm not gonna pick that ending just for that. And that was so infuriating to me. I didn't leave no comments or anything. I just for me, I need to talk this out. And it's so frustrating when people refuse to understand what the game is telling them. Throughout all 3 games of Mass Effect, what has the color blue meant? What does the color blue mean? Like, throughout the whole fucking series. It means Paragon. And what does red mean? It means Renegade. There is no fucking mistake. It is not an accident that Control is blue and Destroy is red. Like, when you get, not just Shepard, anyone in general, when you get new information, it's okay to change your mind. It's okay. It's okay for you to agree with the Elusive Man on Control being the better option, but also disagreeing with the Elusive Man about how he's gonna use that control and his reason for wanting Control. He wanted Control because he wanted to be powerful. Your Shepard wants Control because they want to stop the cycle, because they want to protect their galaxy. So that's just, it's very, very complicated, and I just hate when people simplify shit. So I really appreciate these stories and this type of art where they put a lot of thought into their conflicts. Number 5 is America 51 by Corey Taylor, the singer for Slipknot and Stone Sour. And it's about America. It's about after the first time Trump was elected, and Corey talked about all of his politics. He's a mixture of Republican and Democrat, so I'm just going to read my review that I put on Goodreads, because it sums up everything I think about the book. I love how much common sense and hope he has. He actually won me over on something I'm against, and I'll still be thinking about that for a while, but I think he made a very good point. While another topic I still disagree with, respectfully, but it wasn't annoying hearing him hearing his whole take on it like I thought it would be. I I listened to the audiobooks of all of his books, and then I bought the physical copies and read along with him. He explains his way of thinking very well, and I love that he adds in humor. Like the comedy sprinkled in were nice, like rest stops from the stress of like the topic. I really recommend listening to him read because you could hear the emotions versus hearing how, like, versus wondering how exactly he sounds just from the text. And it was awesome hearing how he feels about everything shared in the book, and it felt more intimate hearing his voice. And plus the jokes landed better. Like you could hear the comedy come off his voice versus like if I could see people, because these are touchy topics, right? So some people in the reviews were like, oh, he's annoying, I couldn't even finish the book, blah blah blah. And it's like, he even talks about that in his book where it's like, I bet someone would get angry off of this one fucking sentence and refuse to read the rest. And that's exactly what fucking happened. Like, people just, they don't want to hear other sides, even if he's being very respectful about it, or gentle, I mean, like being very gentle about it. It's like, you might as well just go full on rude if people refuse to hear you. It's really annoying when people won't give it a chance. You already picked up the book, you might as well finish it. Like, hear him out, you know. And that's another reason for like why I recommend the audio, like listening to it, because it doesn't give you time to pause, like hearing a sentence, and to roll your eyes and rant out loud to yourself. If he's still going on talking, you're gonna shut the fuck up and hear what he has to say. For most people. Some people talk over others, but that's one of the reasons why I really recommend the audio, just to hear him out. And he does say, like, unless you're a fucking bigot, he doesn't give a fuck about your opinion. Which is like, yeah, fuck Nazis, you know? And he says the same thing. So if you're not a bigot or a Nazi or any of that bullshit, like, we can all get along if we fucking want to, you know? Like, we can be our fellow Americans to each other. Anyways, I wish more people were open-minded like him, who are willing to listen and have a conversation with people who think differently from them. I'm reading more of my review. I wish he was a friend in, like, I wish he was in my friend and family group, because it's really small. Like, I just have no patience for the family members and friends that are just into rage bait and just want to say ignorant bullshit and homophobic shit. It's like, I don't want you in my fucking life, you know? I need someone who is like, I need someone who is not heartless, you know? At our core, not everyone is heartless, but I do believe a lot of people are fucking idiots, you know? When you see someone saying something ignorant, and you've known them for years, maybe give them the benefit of the doubt and, like, ask them in private what they mean by this, instead of embarrassing them in public, in a public post, and commenting for everyone to see. And like, what the fuck do you mean by this? Like, just talk to them privately, private message them with what did they mean by that. And depending on their response and how open-minded or closed-minded they are, that's when you can kind of decide, like, well, after these long paragraphs of discussion, I'm just gonna take them out of my life. Or it's like, oh, after this long discussion, we've come to an understanding, and it's really helped, you know? So don't give up on people when they say something that's like, ooh, that's very ignorant, and then they've never shown that side before. Give them a chance to talk to you in private. Like, what do you mean by this? Or like, you know, this is an ignorant thing to say, right? And they're like, oh, I didn't mean it that way. Or like, you know, like a certain friend that was like an all lives matter person, and I talked to them in private, and they totally didn't mean it like that. They totally just thought it it was like, oh, common sense. Like, yeah, for sure, all lives fucking matter. But it's just a movement saying for Black Lives Matter. It's like a movement for it. And I got her to understand that. And it was like her eyes were open to it. To it's like, you can't just follow simplified versions of like, oh, this Black Lives Matter saying is wrong because of this. And it's like, it takes more than just a sentence to say why something is the way it is. You know, it takes a full discussion. So if you really love, if you're a good friend, a good family member, or you feel like yourself a good person, you're going to take the time to have uncomfortable conversations with people. And even if it's like you're nervous about like, oh, what if this is who they were the whole time? And it's like, they weren't. Or like, what if you're like the glue that's holding them together to the little bit of humanity? It's like, be the glue. Like do the work if you're gonna have a friend. Like, friends are hard work. Like, you're supposed to help each other, and like every single fucking person has red flags. Everybody. So you need to help other people through their red flags like they would help you through your red flags. So everyone's growing and everyone keeps forgetting that. Anyways, I really loved this book. It was a hard topic, but he made it very entertaining. I could listen to him talk all day. And I'm gonna say a quote that I really liked from this book, from Corey. He says, "These Trump supporters go on and on about how they hate snowflakes and social justice warriors and all that shit when they've conveniently forgotten that our forefathers were the original SJWs." So, yeah, I just love this book. 5 out of 5. So number 4 is another Corey Taylor book, The 7 Deadly Sins. It's his first book, and this one came out in 2013. This book isn't really about politics. It's more about like organized religion. But I want to read some quotes that kind of still bleed into his fourth book, America 51. He says, "I love being American, but I hate other Americans. Republicans do not care about the country. They care about their agenda. The Democrats don't care either. If they did, they would stand up to the Republican bullies and tell them to go fuck themselves. Every once in a while, Democrats stumble upon a happy accident and find a candidate that can hold his or her own against the elephants, but for the most part, they've been regarded as the pussy party." This was written in 2013, and it's like so fucking sad to realize that nothing has changed since then. So, like I said, the seven Deadly Sins isn't about America or politics or anything like that. It was just these quotes were just in this one little moment. It's about organized religion, and he opens up about some things about his life. He didn't have a nice childhood. He was raped at 10 by a 15-year-old, and he was smoking as a kid and got bullied a lot, saw violence in his home, and he lived in a closet. So, reading all that, fans have felt comfortable sharing their struggles when they meet him at meet and greets and stuff, and it helps them know that like someone they look up to went through all that, like someone successful and awesome, and like just like, you know, this, we always see him as like the stereotypical badass rocker, and just knowing everything he went through that was heartbreaking, it makes fans feel comfortable with having these weak moments, and it's like, oh, this is like common, you know, we're not alone. So and it really helps to see how happy he is with life now. Like, I didn't have that bad of a childhood, but there were so many fucking things that I related to in his first book, in this book. It made me think of my life up until now, and I feel like I'm still too young to be looking back. Like, I've hated when people would complain about being old at the age of 18. I hated hearing that shit. And I still hate it now when people around me complain about being old at 30. Like, I still feel as young as I did in high school. So, it was very strange for me to think long and hard about my life, my childhood. This book made me remember things that I have forgotten. So his books are like reading his personal journal or blog, or listening to his solo podcast, because I listen to all the audios. Like 3 of them are on Hoopla for free, and then the 4th one I had to just sign up for Audible for a month, like, or however long the free trial lasted. So that's how I listened to that. And then after I listened to all of them, I bought all the books on sale on Amazon. Like, I just waited for each one to go on sale, and I bought them. And it was just fun highlighting and writing notes, and yeah, it was... I really recommend his books if you love Slipknot and Stone Sour. It's a look into, like, if you want to go to a Slipknot concert, it really helps with understanding how much music means to him. Number 3 is Mass Effect Nexus Uprising. Like, you do not need to play the games to give a fuck about this book. Like, I loved the annoying racist Solarian in this book. He was funny and dorky, and it made me like him in the game when I replayed. It's like, if you don't know, a Solarian is a type of alien, and they're racist against another type of alien, the Krogan. And Sloane from Andromeda, I liked Sloane only in this book. Like, I can't fucking stand her in the game. But you could still like her in the game, I guess, because they feel like a completely different character. She was it was very interesting seeing her character in this book. Just such a respectful character that really cared about her people, and then in the game she's this heartless bitch that if you wrong her, you die. So she's not giving any more shits. And there is a small explanation in the game. Like, it's one of the side missions, and one of your crew members on the ship is like questioning why is everyone so fucking aggressive, you know? So maybe it had something to do with the long sleep, and it's the side effects of that. And like, I loved that. I really loved it. I just wish that information wasn't a side mission. I wish it was a main mission explanation, because a lot of players are going to completely miss that. It's going to go over their heads, or even if they come across it, they're going to forget about it as soon as they move on to another planet, or maybe just the next quest. They're going to completely forget about that information and like wonder, how could anyone leave their comfy life in the Milky Way, come here just to be raiders, you know? So anyway, I really enjoyed how they are the first to discover the Scourge, and like them coming up with that name, and like replaying Andromeda after reading this book really helps amplify the story when we know everything they went through. It's always a weird feeling where it's like, these were main characters in the story, but now in the game, they're just these side characters that they're optional to speak to. So it's very weird, but I really like that. I really do. And that's only because I'm a completionist in games, but people who aren't completionists are really missing out. I like the freedom that games give to their stories versus movies and shows. We get what we get. Like, we are forced all of the information, or we are hungry for more. Like, we only know the information they give us, but with games, we get to choose how much information we want, if we want all of it or just some of it. So I really recommend this book if you love Mass Effect Andromeda. And or if you just love sci-fi, because like I said, you do not need to play the game to understand the book. The only thing is, like, there's different aliens, and that's all you need. So if you don't see anything that says human or anything, then it's just a different type of alien. My second favorite book ever is Mass Effect Andromeda Initiation. Like, I love stories where the human is female and the AI / robot is male. Male-ish, you know, because, you know, they don't have a gender, but, like, I want them to be masculine. I love those relationships, romantic or not. I'm immediately interested. I love those so much because I feel like they're so rare. It's usually the human that's a man and the robot that's a woman. So I like that now it's starting to become more and more popular to have more equal of, like, having a good balance of, like, more female main characters that the readers can relate to. And this is another one where you don't need to play the games to understand the story. From what I read in the reviews, like, there was a lot of people that was like, I don't know what Mass Effect is, but I love this book. So that was, at the time, shocking to me, because I would think you would need to play the game to understand it. And the reason why I think this book you do and Nexus Uprising you don't is because in Nexus Uprising, the humans and all of the aliens are in a completely new galaxy. But in Mass Effect Andromeda Initiation, they're still in the Milky Way. So it still has, like, this standard of, like, you should already know how everything works. But in Nexus Uprising, all the characters are learning about this new location. You know, hopefully that made sense. But I guess I'm wrong because there's a lot of reviews that say that they understand everything that happened. So I really liked this stories about Cora from Andromeda, and this made me really love her character. I made a whole episode about it. I'll link it in the end cards about how I love her character and more about the book. And yeah, I really, really love this book so much. So much. And before I say number one, I want to give an honorable mention to a book that isn't in my top favorite, but it is still, like, rememberable and sticks out from this year because I was so excited to find a book like this because they're so rare. And that's Marooned on Planet Android. And it's a spicy book, and usually I don't give a fuck about romance or spice because they're usually written badly. Like, they're just fucking cringe and they're just bad writing, easy, simple writing. But this one was different. This one was really good. This was a 5-star. It's about a group of humans that get stranded on this planet above it, and it's a planet full of androids, and they're wondering what happened to all the people. So that's the mystery of it. But it's very cozy, so you don't really get the sense at all that this is gonna turn violent or anything like that. So it really is, you have to be in the mood for something cozy, romantic, and spicy, I guess. Even though it's a spice, I don't feel like there's that many sexy scenes. There's only really like 3 compared to other books, but maybe that's enough. It was enough for me. I just really loved seeing this relationship blossom, and I really love how the robot characters were written. Again, like, they hardly have any emotion, and the part of their emotion they do has a very good fucking explanation for it, that it reminded me of Mass Effect, the Geth from Mass Effect. And even more so, the main characters reminded me of a Paragon femship and Legion having, like, falling in love. I really, really enjoyed it. Like, of all the other fucking romance books about the perfect man, in this book, it makes sense because he's a fucking robot. So it makes sense he would be the perfect man, you know? So everything that could be cringe, if it was written about a human man, isn't cringe because it's written about a robot man. So, and I just, yeah, that's all I got. Go check it out. The second book is coming out next year, and I'm so excited for it. It does end, not on a cliffhanger, but like it answers all the questions in the first book, and then it ends with new questions. So I'm very, very excited. So yeah. Also, I sent an email to the author asking like if they ever did an audio version to have Jennifer Hale, like Shepard's voice actor, to read the book, and she agreed that she would have the perfect voice, but like she doesn't make enough money or sell enough copies to justify to commission something like that. So please, like, you could read this for free on the Hoopla app, and like if you really like it, please just buy a copy. I bought a physical copy because it's like I really wanted to support her, and it's like it was just amazing that I found a romance book I actually liked. So my number one is Stephen King's It. Okay? Like when I grew up in the 90s and I seen the original it was like one of the scariest things I had ever seen. Then as I grew up, I was like, damn, this is trash. Why was I scared of this? And then I just wasn't a reader, so I never read the book. I just knew of that horror movie, or miniseries, whatever it's called. And I just know, like, I could imagine, like, what I remember as a kid is more scarier than what's on screen. Like, it's just, it didn't age well. So I could just imagine how fucking scary the book was. And, after the remake of it was like everything I wanted. It was amazing. It was very scary. That is how I pictured the horror of when I watched it as a kid, but it isn't. So it's like it like magically seemed like it was made for me like it was made out of my memories. It was really, really cool to see. And I hardly ever go to the movies, but for that one, I needed to see it in theaters. So that's probably like the last movie I've ever seen on the big screen. And then I read the book. And I can't believe it took me so long to read this book. I love it. I loved every single fucking part of it. And I actually read it. I bought the physical copy, the hardcover. Yeah, it was just a dream come true. It was everything I really liked. I read, I listened to a podcast, and they talk about how, because Beth's character, I also didn't really like most parts of how she was written, like sexualizing her. The part of her looking at herself in the mirror, hated those parts. I just think, for me personally, little girls don't think like that. Especially, like, I don't know, this was set in the 50s. Like, the book was set in the 50s, not written in the 50s. So it feels like even more that little girls don't look in the mirror like that and think about themselves like that, but maybe I'm wrong. Anyways, I seem to have, like, people agreeing with me on that, because in that podcast, she talks about how the book isn't about childhood, it's about boyhood, and that's okay. And I totally agree with that. That really makes a lot more sense. So, if you love Stranger Things, then you will enjoy this book. Like, if you really wish, too, that Stranger Things was more heavier with this drama and more mature in some aspects, then you would definitely love it. So even though it's about boyhood, I could still, like, relate to some of the boy characters and imagine myself as a kid, and a lot of things that they talked about, it's like, yeah, we definitely had that discussion too as a kid. Like, parents always think kids are like these innocent, pure creatures that don't know what the fuck is going on, but it's like we catch on. There are some things we know that, like, even if we don't know, our other friends know, and they educate us on that, and it's like we all talk about it. We might be a bit wrong about it, a bit off about some of the definitions of certain stuff, but we know when something is taboo or when something is, like, not meant for our ears yet, and that just makes it even more delicious when, like, we want to know what our parents are hiding, you know? Like, what are the adults hiding that they think we're not old enough yet to understand? So all of that, like, I totally understand. I got to relate to the characters in that way, and that could be, like, also just a me thing, because seeing other people talk about how, like, oh, this is unrealistic, or oh, this is gross, and it's like, it seemed to fit for me. It seemed to fit the theme, especially, like, people seem to forget that this is a horror story. This is horror. So everything is amplified in horror. So it's cranked up to 11. Characters make choices they wouldn't make in real life. Characters come across an obstacle and bad luck that wouldn't happen in real life. In real life, people have time and breathing room between each bad day they have, and they can think about it. Well, in a horror, it's like, we gotta make the split decision right now. It's not every day you come across a fucking monster. It's not every day you're lost in the fucking sewer system that it's like a fucking maze and no one's gonna come help you. So, like, characters grow and develop quickly with one experience, like magic. While in reality, it would take months or years for people to develop from something they went through. So that's just it being a fictional story, and people keep forgetting that. And it's very frustrating when it's like, you're bigger readers than me. Like, I still feel like a new reader, and I seem to be more open-minded, and other people too. I'm not, like, special. I'm not trying to come off that way. I'm just saying that, like, the louder group of people seem to be fucking just, they have no room for unrealistic behavior in a horror with monsters. I don't understand the logic of, like, being okay with kids being killed left and right and, like, gory details of them dying, but they put their foot down when kids are being sexual with each other with their own age. Like, kids their own age being with each other, and it's, like, not even in detail. It's, like, 3 pages, and it's, like, so easily skippable, but what isn't skippable is the deaths. So that happens so many times throughout the book, and yet not a peep. No complaints at all about kids being killed for plot. About one little section, everyone has complaints, and it's like, oh, this ruined the whole story. And it's like, it's 3 pages out of 1,000. Nobody likes that scene. That's nobody's favorite fucking scene. So it's just really baffling to me for people to give it like a 1 or 2 star for that 3 pages, 4 pages in a 1,000-page story where there were no morals in a lot of parts before that, and you didn't give the rating for that. So I'm not saying that, oh, how dare you, and shame you for, like, liking this violence. I'm saying how can you be so hypocritical and have this double standard of like being okay with one thing but not the other? I feel like you either have to not be okay with both or be okay with both. Anyways, about the story, I'm just gonna leave it there. I'm gonna link a podcast that goes into this a lot more, of the double standard and like how everyone else is more gross than what actually happens in the story. If you use the word gangbang, I think you need to learn that, like look up that definition and see that that's not what it is at all. That's gross. Like if you used that word, you need to take a step back, look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself what's wrong with you. Why did you say that? You're disgusting for using that word. But I liked one of the characters. I'm going to say Richie. I liked Richie in this book because he loved his friends. He always tried to make them laugh. He was very like respectful in a way of like compared to the fucking movie version. So that's the one thing I didn't like about the remake. Is how Richie's character is more of an asshole than he is the class clown, you know? So in the movie, he just insults his friends for his own benefit and for, you know, the watchers. But in the book, he loves his friends. He jokes to make people around him laugh. He doesn't just insult them just to insult them. He wants to do it, he teases them because he knows he's going to get teased back. So Richie was a better character in this book, and he is fucking racist because like it's like a ignorant racism. Because it's like a kid seeing what they saw on TV, and he does impressions. He does impressions of characters, and two of them is like a Mexican character and a black character. So he like stereotypes and talks like them, but he's a child. So it's like, I can see, depending on how you read it, you're going to be very fucking annoyed. But if you just remember that his heart's in the right place and I don't see any maliciousness in him at all. He's just going off of what he's seen on TV. So, but that's just me, and I'm Mexican, so I'm just saying I didn't feel offended when it's like a fictional character, especially a fictional child character. That's like one of the good-hearted heroes of the story. So you could read his whole character and like make your judgment on what type of person he is. But I will fucking say, if it was the Richie from the movie, I would feel a lot fucking different, because I would feel like it was malicious. Like it goes way beyond above ignorance. That would be a hateful racism. And yeah, and I think like in the movies too, they're a bit older. They're more like 13, 14. So they're older than the ones in the book. So it's just, yeah, Richie's way more doable and likable in the book for me. And I know that's, I guess I'm in the minority because a lot of people seem to really love him in the movie and thought he was funny. I did not. And one of the things I really liked about the books, the book versus the movies that's split into two, is I liked that the book goes back and forth between the present and the past, like them as kids to them as adults, because I loved reading them as kids. Like I didn't want the story of them being kids to end. Like in the movies, it's like the first movie is just them as kids, and then the second movie is just them as adults. I really liked that it went back and forth between, like, in the books where it's like they're going to the final fight, right? I like that we get to see both of those fights. the final fight of when they were kids, then it flashbacks to the final fight as them as adults. I really enjoyed that. And it's also, I'm in the minority here, I guess, that I really liked the ending. I liked how it ended. It was, I won't spoil it, but thinking about the whole theme of this story, it's about being scared of it, and it could be about sex. It could be, and what is sex? That's like growing up, right? That's adulthood, and it's like a form of that. It's like when you lose your innocence. So it, like, as a kid, everyone says it. Did you do it? So it, you can't even say the word. We just have to say it, like this scary thing. And like, I liked that the ending made me immediately want to go on Reddit and see explanations of the ending and stuff like that, and theories. It's one of the funnest things I like to do with horror movies. So this was, I get the knee-jerk reaction of like, what is this? This is how it ends? What the fuck is this? But I really liked how bittersweet it was, and confusing if you just finish it and that's it and you don't even think about it. But I liked thinking about it and reading other people's theories and understanding, like, yeah, I like that theory, therefore I liked the ending. So I know everyone's different. People want to be able to like an ending without having to use the internet to communicate with the fandom, but I disagree. I think the fandom really helps amplify the feeling of stories. Like, that's the whole point. Art is supposed to make people come together and connect with it. Like, you can respectfully disagree with people. Like, don't forget that. You don't have to be snarky with each other. You can respectfully disagree and get something out of what they're saying that you disagree with, but maybe you agree with, like, just one other aspect of it, you know? So, anyways, thanks for listening.